The fun thing about doing home improvements or in-home sales is that you're walking into a different situation in a different house for every sales call you make. The common denominator is that you have to be able to take and stay in control of whatever the situation is. For example, in most cases, you're selling to just one or two people. Normally, it would be a husband and wife or partner or just one person. Lots of times in our job, you go to the home and you may have multiple people involved. One example that could happen is when you go to the home and you have a single person there with his or her friend or neighbor. They could be there to help them, or a lot of times if it's a single woman you're seeing, they may be there just to make sure they're safe with a stranger in their home with them. Or you might have a retired couple and then they've got friends or their children over with them and they're all involved. Sometimes they're planning to be involved and sometimes they're not. Whoever and how many people there are, I think the strategy should be the same. They should be either all in or all out. Ideally, all in. You try to get them all involved because the worst case is where they aren't really all in or all out. They're sort of like sitting on the side where they may be partly in and out of your sales presentation. If you don't do this, when they're going to come in for sure is at the end, and the only thing they see is the price, and if they weren't totally involved, they say, OMG, look how much money that is, and then your sale's gone. Anyone who's not involved can't see the value of what the customer is buying, and they could potentially kill the deal. Imagine trying to sell someone where they only heard one half of what you were saying. If it's just one or two extra people there with the homeowner, usually I just say, hey, I'm glad you're here because it's always easier and better to get other people's opinion on things like colors, and this is going to be a lot of fun. And keep them involved by talking to all people equally. None of these are absolutes. You have to use your common sense. If the other party says, I want nothing to do with this and I'm going to be watching TV in the other room, then don't force the issue. One thing I try to judge is who's stronger if there's a customer with a friend over. If the friend seems stronger, then I still would prefer they're involved because even if they're in the other room at some point, especially if I'm writing up paperwork, they'll come in and could kill the order if they haven't been there to see the value of what the product cost. Another thing that happens is there are a lot of decision makers, such as 4 siblings who all own the house together, and it's a mutual decision. If this is the case, you're trying to please everyone, but there'll be situations where you can't, and you need to mediate compromises. Well, how about this? If we go lighter like John wants, then can we put in the pantry cabinet that Mary wants? Another situation may be where you think there are 1 or 2 primary decision makers and a couple more you may be unsure about. An obstacle that can happen in this type of situation is where they all start talking and they all want different things and it starts to get out of control. When there's a lot of people involved, really quickly what you want to do is take control to sort out the real decision maker and sort of politely put a kibosh on all the other kibitzers. In other words, the person you sense is the decision maker says, oh, I'd like to go darker. And then all of a sudden their friends go, oh no, you should go lighter. And then someone else says, well, I don't know if you need to do that. When that happens, you just need to lay it all out on the table and say, look, I appreciate all of your feedback, but there's no way I'm going to be able to please all of you. We can't make half the kitchen light and half the kitchen dark and then leave half of it undone. So I guess the important question I need to ask is, who's actually paying for this first of all? Or who's the real decision maker here so I know who I should follow if you all have different suggestions? Or which one of you should I follow the most so I don't get confused and we're not here for hours? Lay it out on the table and try to establish who's in control so you can go from there. Be firm but nice. Another and sometimes more awkward situation is where it could be a friend or relative such as a mother who's there with their young adult daughter who's the actual customer. They mean right, but you can see that they start to dominate the conversation and tell their daughter what to do or not, and you get the feeling that the situation is getting uncomfortable. Are you sure you need to do this? Why don't you just replace the front windows instead of the whole house? My strategy here is not to get between them, but almost put them in a room and let them fight it out and then deal with the winner. Be polite and tactful. Miss Mother, I really appreciate you being here because I know you're looking out for your daughter just like I would. However, I need to know, since I'm feeling a little friction here, is do you make the decisions for your daughter or do you think she's capable of making her own decisions? And what about you, Miss Daughter? Does your mother make your decisions for you or do you think you're able to make them yourself? I'll follow whatever you guys want me to do, but I need some direction here. This may seem bold to newer salespeople, but after you've been beat up enough times in the home like me, it won't. You also have to use your common sense where the extra people there may actually be a hindrance and you might be better off rescheduling the appointment. For example, they have friends over for dinner or swimming, where if it wasn't for that particular situation, they wouldn't even be there. They're there for a separate reason than you coming. Then you need to politely remind the customer that there are different colors and styles to pick out, and to be fair to them as a customer, it would take much longer unless they could give me 100% of their focus and attention. Would it be better for everyone if we did this at a different time? I remember one time they were literally having a birthday party with 30 people there when the wife answered the door. Excuse me, are you guys having a birthday party? Yes. Well, with the fact that we're picking out colors and door styles for your new kitchen, do you think it might be better to reschedule this so it doesn't waste your time by going back and forth and not being able to give this 100% of your attention? You know, you're right. I don't know what I was thinking by scheduling this at the birthday party time. Sidebar, separate from all of this regarding third-party kills, haven't you ever noticed how weird it is that if you're presenting, if a friend does come over or the phone does ring, it's right when you're delivering the price? I actually used to think they had a secret button they pressed so that when I was giving them the price, it was the signal to come over. If you've done this for a while, I know you know what I'm talking about.